My mom spent a lot of my money on my sister's wedding, but I stopped it by freezing the account. I'm facing a tough situation. My mom and sister have been using me for a long time, and now it's gone too far. I want to stop them, but I worry that cutting them off completely would make life hard for them. I'm tired of always giving in to their demands. I'm 38 years old, married with 2 kids, and I've been living in Ohio for 6 years since I got married. I originally come from Houston. My childhood was tough because my parents got divorced, and my dad left when I was 10 years old. My parents split up when I was 5. They say it was because my dad thought my sister wasn't really his child. This made them get divorced. Dad let Mom keep our house, and he moved out. He paid for my schooling, but not for my sister's. I don't know why Mom didn't ask for it. Maybe that's why people believe Dad's claim about my sister. Dad wasn't around much during my childhood. Sometimes he would come to my school to pay for my fees and bring me gifts. But when I started high school, I reached out to him. And since then, he's been a big part of my life. He even came to my wedding, even though my mom didn't like it. Over time, I grew closer to my dad than to my mom. He visited me in Ohio twice after I moved here, but then he got very sick, and we lost him last year. Mom didn't like how close I was to my dad, and she started acting distant. To make her even more upset, my dad named me as his heir. He got married again after divorcing my mom, but he didn't have any kids with his new wife. My dad always said I was his only daughter. Mom and my sister didn't like me because Dad favored me, and I got to inherit his $400,000 trust fund. But it's not just about the money. Dad supported me through school, so I got a better education than my sister. This meant I went to better schools and colleges and had a better life overall thanks to the money Dad gave us after the divorce. I was 10 when they split, and by then, the money for my education had already started coming in. I was 12, so Mom couldn't control it much. The money for my schooling went straight to the school and later to college from the support Dad gave us. Mom did use some of the money for my sister and for things around the house. I wasn't a dumb kid, so my mom tried to keep me happy so I wouldn't complain. I won't say my mom and sister were mean to me when I was growing up, but they didn't really like me, and they were pretty close to each other while I felt left out. Plus, I was smart, not just in school, but clever too. I wasn't someone they could push around easily. I think that's why my mom never mistreated me. Nowadays, my problem is the $400,000 my dad left for me. Ever since my mom and sister found out about it, they keep asking me for money. Actually, this isn't the first time they've asked for money. I've been helping them financially since I started working. As I made more money, their needs grew. I don't owe them anything, but I help them because they're family, and they don't make much money. My mom works as a cashier, and my sister works in a store. Together, they don't make half as much as I do, so I feel like I should help them. We might not be very close emotionally, but they've never been mean to me. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say and that I'm not confusing you with my feelings. A few months ago, my mom called me and said she wanted to fix up our house. Over the years, the walls, ceilings, and floors had gotten really damaged. Since Dad left, we hadn't been able to keep up with repairs. The house hadn't been painted, and the wiring was messed up. The ceilings and walls were falling apart in places. We never had enough money to take care of the house. Mom said it was getting hard to live there, especially during storms. She went to the bank to ask for a loan, but the interest rates were too high. I knew she wanted me to give her the money for the renovations, but neither of us said it directly. It was an awkward talk, so after that, I started ignoring her calls. She doesn't call me much, usually just once a month, but last month she called me 3 or 4 times. When I finally answered her call, Mom said it wasn't safe to stay in our house anymore because it was falling apart in bad weather. This time she was direct and asked me for money. She promised to pay it back bit by bit. I asked her how much she needed, and she said $100,000. I was shocked. I didn't have that much to lend. She hinted at the inheritance money. I was angry but didn't want to talk about it. I said I could only lend $50,000. She agreed. Later, I realized I was too quick to offer $50,000. I could have just ignored her, but now that I'd said it, I had to lend her the money. I didn't feel good about lending such a big amount. My husband suggested that I lend the money bit by bit and check on the progress of the house before getting more. I told my mom I'd send $50,000 in parts. I had an old account in Houston that I hadn't used, so I activated it and sent $10,000 there. I gave Mom access to that account. She asked why I didn't send the money directly to her account, and I made up an excuse. It was actually my husband's idea. I'm not very hopeful that she'll pay it back, but let's see how it goes. Update. I can't figure out exactly how my mom and sister tried to trick me for easy money. It's been 2 months since I started lending money to my mom for the house renovations. I've given $20,000 so far, and I'm not giving any more after this. I always knew they were only nice to me for my money, but I never thought they would lie to me this much just to get money from me. If they had been honest with me, it wouldn't have hurt so much. Recently, I found out that my sister is getting married, not from my family, but from one of my school friends. My friend's husband is a wedding planner, and my sister has been working with his agency to plan her big wedding. They're calling it a grand wedding. I don't think my sister knew that I'm friends with them. A wedding worth $50,000 is definitely grand. It hurts to find out about your sister's wedding from someone else. I wasn't even told about it, let alone invited. I thought it would be a small and intimate wedding with just a few people, but my friend told me the guest list was around 100. It was heartbreaking not to be among those 100 guests. Feeling sad about it is one thing, but I'm more concerned about the money. Where did my sister get the money to organize such an extravagant wedding? It was held at one of the best venues in town with unlimited food and drinks and top-notch decorations and flowers. I checked the bank account where I was sending money to my mom for her supposed renovation project, but it was empty. I called Mom to ask if the renovations had started. She said yes, she hired a renovation company, but the work hadn't begun yet. I couldn't stand her lies. Until then, I wasn't sure if they were really using my money for her wedding, but the thought of them spending a lot on her wedding while still taking money from me for the house renovation disgusted me. I briefly thought about flying to Houston to check things out myself, but I realized it wouldn't be worth it. Instead, I called my aunt who lived nearby my mom's house. I asked if she knew about my sister's wedding, and she said yes, but she wasn't invited either. Mom doesn't get along with my dad's side of the family, so it made sense. She also mentioned that my sister's wedding had become the talk of the neighborhood. I mean, just a few years ago, their house was falling apart, and now they have a brand new house and a lavish wedding. Hearing this made me feel dizzy and confused. Mom told me the house still needed repairs, but my aunt said it looked new with fresh paint. Then I remembered about 6 months ago, Mom asked me for $20,000 for her knee surgery. I called Mom to ask where she had the surgery done. I lied, saying a friend needed details for her dad's surgery. Mom struggled to remember and couldn't give me any information about the hospital or clinic. She seemed caught off guard and hung up, saying there was a network issue. When I called again, her phone was off, and she didn't answer for days. I sent a text, but she didn't read it. I realized she was lying. The money I gave her for the surgery was probably used for the house renovations, and the money she's taking now is likely for my sister's wedding. I also found out my sister got engaged on our front lawn with decorations and wine. I felt like I'd been living in the dark because I had no idea they were living so lavishly and pretending to be poor to get money from me. So I decided to cut them off. I stopped sending money to that account, and when Mom called or texted, I ignored her. My sister, who never called before, tried calling, but I ignored her too. I'm done with their lies and manipulation. Just because I make more money than them, and my dad left me an inheritance while giving them nothing, doesn't give them the right to take advantage of me with their lies. I've decided to spoil my mom's princess's big day. Update, I was right about my mom. When I ignored all their attempts to reach me, my mom called my husband. Let me tell you, my husband can be a bit of a party pooper. I warned him not to talk to them, but when my mom called him, he did. She started crying, saying I was avoiding them, that they needed money to finish the renovations, and that I had broken my promise. My husband spilled the beans. Yes, he did that. I wanted to smack him on the head. He told her that I knew the truth, that she'd been using me for money, and that the money was really for my sister's wedding, which is why I cut them off. I was really angry because I wanted them to suffer for their deception, but my husband ruined everything. He also told my mom that we knew she lied about the knee surgery and used that money for the house repairs. After that call, my mom bombarded my phone with apologies. She said it was all a misunderstanding, that she borrowed the money from someone for the house repairs and was paying them back with my money. It was another lie. After her constant calls and messages, I said I'd talk to her only if she promised to tell me the truth. She agreed. When we spoke, she finally told me everything. She said my sister wanted a big wedding, but they didn't have the money for it, so they decided to ask me for it. It was my sister's idea to use the excuse of house renovations to get the money from me. They knew I hadn't been to Houston in years and wasn't in touch with anyone there, so I wouldn't know the house was already renovated. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth and ask for money directly for the wedding. She said my sister didn't want that. She said she didn't want to ask me for a favor directly. Can you believe that? I told her I knew she used the knee surgery money I gave her to fix the house. She went silent. I told her I knew everything, so there was no point in hiding it. She said the house was falling apart and my sister's in-laws were coming to visit, so they had to fix it quickly. They couldn't think of a better reason to get money from me in a hurry. So she panicked and called me, saying the doctor wanted her to have urgent knee surgery, and I sent the money right away. Even though I stayed strong on the call, I was crying inside. How could my own mother deceive me like this? I know they have money problems, but that doesn't give them the right to manipulate me and take advantage of my emotions. After I heard the truth, I hung up and cried for hours. I can't remember the last time I cried so much. Maybe it was when my dad passed away. I missed him terribly that day. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from Mom asking me to send the rest of the money so they could keep planning the wedding. It disgusted me so much that I wanted to scream at her. If she wasn't my mom, I think she was really selfish. She didn't show any regret. All she cared about was money. They didn't even invite me to the wedding, not even out of politeness. When the truth came out, I felt so frustrated that I blocked both of them. I also warned my husband not to talk to them, and if he disobeys me again, he'll sleep outside in the cold. I'm serious about this. I'm keeping in touch with my aunt, and she told me the wedding is next month. I didn't tell her about the money, but I know my mom and sister are struggling more and more each day to make the wedding they wanted happen. Good for them. Update 3. Mom and sister kept calling and leaving voicemails until the wedding day, asking for money, but I didn't give in. On the wedding day, Mom's last voicemail said she was ashamed of me and disowned me. It hurt so much. I cried a lot in front of my husband. People might say I'm mean for ruining my sister's wedding. Mom called me arrogant and selfish too, but she never thought about her lies. She tricked me for so long. I helped them because I felt like I had to. I thought of them as family, but to them, I was just a way to get money. On the wedding day, my friend, whose husband was the wedding planner, called. She said the wedding might be canceled because they weren't paying for it anymore. I asked my friend how much they paid for the wedding so far, and she said $20,000. I said that's enough for a nice wedding, but she said my sister ordered fancy decorations and food, and the location alone cost $20,000. She asked if I was going, and I said no. I had other plans. My friend knew I wasn't close to my mom and sister. To be honest, I felt upset because I felt like I ruined my sister's wedding. For a moment, I thought about giving the rest of the money to my friend to finish the wedding as planned. But then I remembered my mom's voicemail disowning me. What's the point of helping them if they disown me in the end? Maybe my actions weren't great, but they were a reaction to their hurtful actions. I turned off my phone and spent the day with my kids to keep my mind off things. The next day, my friend called again, upset with my sister because the wedding made her husband look bad in the business. On the wedding day, Mom and sister begged her husband to arrange something basic for the wedding and promised to pay $10,000 more. He managed to get decent food and decorations because the $20,000 advance covered most of the venue cost. But guests in the groom's family criticized the arrangements, and my sister blamed the wedding planner. She said he messed everything up. My friend's husband wanted to tell the truth, but Mom warned him not to ruin my sister's life. He stayed quiet and took the blame, plus they hadn't paid the promised $10,000 yet. I felt so embarrassed. I didn't know what to say. My friend said she wasn't blaming me, just sharing her frustration. I felt bad for my family's embarrassment, but also embarrassed they blamed the planner. My husband said they got what they deserved, and I shouldn't worry about them. They brought it on themselves by being dishonest. I'm relieved to stay away from their lies and tricks. Mom disowning me turned out to be a blessing. I don't have to deal with their lies anymore. On to the next chapter. My husband dropped a bombshell yesterday. He confessed that he's in love with my sister, but he said it when he was drunk, so I don't know if it's real. We all had dinner together with my sister and her husband, and we drank a lot. After they left, my husband and I had sex. We were tired, so we kept drinking wine, listening to music, and having a good time. My husband seemed happy, like he always does when he's drunk. We talked about my sister and her husband, and out of nowhere, he said, "I'm so in love with sister's name." I was shocked and asked what he said. He repeated, "I'm crazy about sister's name." I wish I could kiss her. She's amazing. He had this dreamy look on his face and kept smiling. I asked him if he was really drunk, and he said, "Probably." It hit me hard. Even though I was also drunk, I just sat there silently, and he seemed lost in his thoughts with a smile on his face. I went to bed feeling confused and upset. This morning, I woke up sober, and all those memories came rushing back. What my husband said is haunting me, and I feel shattered inside. He hasn't mentioned anything and seems fine, just dealing with a hangover. I don't know what to do now. He's always had a good relationship with my sister, so should I ignore what he said when he was drunk? Maybe it was just the alcohol talking. Should I wait for him to bring it up? I'm not even sure if he remembers. And what about the sex we had? It felt different, even though I enjoyed it and thought it was amazing. He seemed different, more passionate and loving. He kept saying, "I love you," You're amazing. My sister recently lost weight and looked stunning in a form-fitting dress yesterday, and we all complimented her. She was really happy about it. I'm not sure why I'm mentioning this, but maybe it's important. I'll definitely talk to him about it when he's not hungover and can think clearly. I'm torn about whether to believe the saying, drunk mind speaks sober thoughts, because alcohol can cloud judgment. I'm not sure if I can fully believe that alcohol alone could make someone confess love for their sister-in-law, even if he denies it. Do you think I can get past this? Because I believe he'll deny it. If I were you, I wouldn't feel comfortable with my husband and sister being together again. And that's not good for a marriage. I think he was probably just expressing his attraction to your sister in the moment. Honestly, when people's inhibitions are lowered, they might mix up feelings of lust and love. So regardless, you need to talk seriously with your husband. No one else can answer for him. Even after talking, it might be really hard for you to move forward. From experience, I know that even if it's just lust, you might carry this experience with you like a shadow. If you both want to try to make things work, I suggest going to couples counseling and getting therapy individually to help you both move forward in a healthy way. I wish you all the best and hope for a brighter future for you. I'm really sorry you're going through this. Something similar happened to me once. My ex said, "I love you," but he used my twin sister's name instead. When I corrected him, he acted like he made a mistake, but he didn't. He was actually in love with my sister. He was only dating me to get to her. You need to have a serious talk with your husband about this. It makes no sense for him to date you if he's interested in your sister. No sister would ever accept her sister's ex. At least that's what I thought until she dated him after I. Our upbringing was tough, and our relationship wasn't great because our parents often compared us and put us against each other. I agree most of the time that's the worst way to handle it. It would be much better to be friends with their siblings instead of getting involved with them romantically. But I guess he wasn't thinking clearly. Lol, it's painful to read about. You definitely need to talk to him about it today. He's acting like nothing happened. Do you think he doesn't remember saying it? I agree that drunk words often reveal sober thoughts. Have you ever noticed any behavior towards her that made you stop and think? Ask him directly while you're facing each other. His reaction will tell you a lot. He's always liked my sister. He gets along with my whole family and is friends with my brothers, but my sister is the one he likes the most. We're very close to her and her husband. We usually do things together as a group, but my sister has always been my best friend, so it seemed normal. If he had only said, "I love her," it couldn't have been just a drunken slip-up. But he made sure to express his feelings clearly. His words weren't just drunken nonsense. They were sincere and showed deep feelings, especially since his inhibitions were down. People say silly things when they're drunk, but they don't usually profess their love for someone like that unless it's important to them. I would bring it up directly and see how he reacts. That should give you a clear answer. Update. Hi, it's been 3 days since I last updated because I'm feeling conflicted. I talked to my husband on Sunday about what happened. He said he didn't remember much about that night, especially after my sister and her husband left, and we kept drinking. I told him what he said, but he didn't seem shocked or surprised, just that he didn't remember saying anything. I asked him if he felt that way before we started drinking. He said he's always loved my sister because she's kind and warm. He also mentioned that he thought she looked really beautiful that night, and maybe his drunk self thought she was attractive. He said it's normal for people to be curious about the opposite sex. He's always thought my family is good-looking, and my sister's weight loss gave her confidence, which made her look happy, and he was happy for her. I asked him if he had to choose between us, and he was shocked. He said I'm his wife and the mother of his children, and he loves me. When I asked him to imagine if we had just met and neither of us was married, he got frustrated and said this was getting ridiculous. He doesn't like playing hypothetical games because they can lead to unnecessary fights. After dinner, he reassured me that he loves me very much and that he's happy. He said I shouldn't overthink what he said when he was too drunk to even know who or where he was. I'm still unsure about everything. I appreciate your advice, and I've been thinking about seeing a therapist on my own. It would bother me a lot to think about how much his desire to stay connected with my sister, even if it's just a little, influenced his decision to stay with me. I could never get over the thought of him being intimate with her while using me as a substitute for his feelings for her. These thoughts would keep replaying in my mind forever, making it hard for me to feel connected during intimate moments with him. I'd always be comparing myself, feeling inadequate, and questioning if his feelings for me are genuine. My ADHD would make it even harder for me to believe that his affection for me wasn't just an act. My sister and I are very close, and we live close to each other. I've wondered if he settled for being close to her by being with me. I obsess over every interaction and mention of her, wondering if he's as happy with me as he seems to be with her. I'm not sure if what he's saying is true or if I'm just imagining things. Now there's no way to come back from this. It will always be on my mind. I need to trust my instincts and stand up for myself. He admitted his feelings for my sister to me. He's had these feelings for years, but he says he loves me and our life together. We're going to start counseling, and from now on, when I spend time with my sister, he won't be there. He's confessed his feelings for her, but he says he's never acted on them in the past and won't in the future.